Imagine waking up one morning when the person who always protected you is gone. No doctor can bring them back, no school counselor is waiting to help, no government agency is coming, no foster home exists, there is no phone to call a relative, and no emergency number to dial. You are just a child living in a world where survival depends almost entirely on the people around you. Now imagine this happened 50,000 years ago. A child loses their mother, or their father, or perhaps both. What happens next? Did that child simply die? Were they abandoned? Did another family take them in? The answer is more complicated than you might think, because ancient children usually didn't survive alone. They survived as part of a group. Human children are unusually dependent. A newborn can't find food, protect itself, or even move away from danger. And unlike many animals, humans take years to become independent. That meant raising a child couldn't always be the responsibility of just one person. Parents mattered, of course, but so could grandparents, older siblings, relatives, and other members of the group. Imagine a small prehistoric camp. There are adults preparing food near a fire. Someone is making a stone tool. Another person is gathering plants. Children are moving around the shelter, watching everything. There are no separate bedrooms, no daycare, no school. The entire community is part of the child's world, so if one parent suddenly disappeared, the child didn't necessarily lose everyone. Someone else already knew them, someone else could feed them, someone could carry them, someone could protect them while they slept, and someone could continue teaching them the things their parents had taught them. But there was one situation that could be especially dangerous: losing a mother while still an infant. A baby cannot simply start taking care of itself. It needs constant attention, warmth, and food. If the mother was breastfeeding, her death could create an immediate problem. But humans have something unusual: cooperative childcare. In many human societies, babies can receive care from people other than their biological mother. Another woman might help feed the infant. A relative might take over childcare. Older siblings or other adults might help keep the baby safe. We don't know exactly how every prehistoric group handled these situations, but the basic ability to share childcare is deeply human, and this may have been one of the reasons our species survived. Because parents can get sick, parents can become injured, parents can die. If a child's survival depended completely on one person never failing, human childhood would be incredibly risky. Instead, the group could sometimes act like a safety net, but that doesn't mean every child survived. Ancient childhood was dangerous. There were infections, parasites, injuries, food shortages, extreme weather, predators, and many other threats. Infant and child mortality was much higher in many ancient populations than it is in modern societies with advanced medicine and sanitation, so some children who lost their parents probably did not survive. That's the uncomfortable part of the story. We shouldn't imagine prehistoric humans as having some perfect system where every orphan was automatically protected. Resources could be limited, a group could be struggling, several adults could become sick, food could disappear, a community could be forced to move. Sometimes there simply wasn't enough help, but when enough resources were available, another factor could make a huge difference: family. An ancient family could be much larger than what we imagine today. A child who lost both parents might still have siblings, grandparents, cousins, or other relatives, and even people who weren't closely related could have strong social bonds with the child. The child already knew these people. They weren't strangers arriving from somewhere else. They were the people the child had been seeing around the fire every day. That familiarity could matter enormously. Now imagine an older child, perhaps 7 or 8 years old. They've already learned some basic survival skills. They know where the group sleeps. They know how to stay near the fire. They recognize certain plants. They know which sounds mean danger. They've watched adults make tools. They've probably learned many things simply by observing. So when a parent dies, something incredibly important can remain: knowledge. The parent may be gone, but what they taught the child can survive. A mother might have taught which berries were safe. A father might have shown how to recognize animal tracks. An elder might have explained where water could be found. Someone might have taught the child how to stay safe around fire. That information doesn't disappear when the person does. It becomes part of the child's memory, and this is one of the most powerful things about humans. We don't only inherit genes, we inherit knowledge. Generation after generation, humans watched, copied, remembered, and taught. A dangerous plant could be remembered for generations. A safe path could become traditional knowledge. A hunting technique could be passed from one person to another. A story about a dangerous animal could protect children who had never even seen that animal before. Without books, people themselves were the library, and if one person died, the knowledge could still survive inside everyone they had taught. This may have been especially important for children who lost their parents. They could continue learning from other members of the group, and eventually they could become capable themselves. A young child might begin by collecting small sticks. Later, they might help gather food, then carry heavier objects, watch younger children, learn more complicated tools. Eventually, they could participate in hunting or other demanding activities. Growing up wasn't a sudden transformation. It was a gradual process of becoming useful to the group, and sometimes losing a parent may have meant taking on responsibility earlier. Not because ancient people wanted children to grow up quickly, but because life sometimes demanded it. There was also another powerful safety net: older people. Grandparents and other elders could provide knowledge, childcare, and experience. An older person might not be the strongest hunter anymore, but they could remember where water was found during a drought. They could recognize useful plants. They could tell stories about dangerous places. They could help care for children. A story about a dangerous animal could protect children who had never even seen that animal before. Without books, people themselves were the library, and if one person died, the knowledge could still survive inside everyone they had taught. This may have been especially important for children who lost their parents. They could continue learning from other members of the group, and eventually they could become capable themselves. A young child might begin by collecting small sticks. Later, they might help gather food, then carry heavier objects, watch younger children, learn more complicated tools. Eventually, they could participate in hunting or other demanding activities. Growing up wasn't a sudden transformation. It was a gradual process of becoming useful to the group, and sometimes losing a parent may have meant taking on responsibility earlier. Not because ancient people wanted children to grow up quickly, but because life sometimes demanded it. There was also another powerful safety net: older people. Grandparents and other elders could provide knowledge, childcare, and experience. An older person might not be the strongest hunter anymore, but they could remember where water was found during a drought, they could recognize useful plants, they could tell stories about dangerous places, they could help care for children, and if a parent died, that experience could become incredibly valuable. But perhaps the most important thing an ancient child needed wasn't food or shelter, it was belonging. Imagine losing the person you depended on most. The child might cry, they might search for the parent, they might not understand why they weren't coming back, but then someone sits beside them, someone gives them food, someone holds them, someone tells them where to sleep, someone continues the routine, the fire is still burning, the group is still there. Life hasn't completely disappeared, the child is still part of something, and slowly they adapt. Days become weeks, weeks become months, the child learns a new routine, they continue playing, they continue watching, they continue learning, eventually they become stronger, and one day the child who once needed everyone else becomes someone another child can depend on. That may be the most beautiful part of the story. A child can lose a parent, but still inherit their knowledge. They can lose one caregiver, but gain support from many others. They can experience enormous loss and still grow into an adult. And that adult may eventually protect the next generation. This cycle could continue for thousands of generations, child to adult, adult to caregiver, caregiver to child, again and again and again. So what actually happened to ancient children who lost their parents? There was no single answer. Some were probably cared for by relatives. Some may have been raised by other members of their community. Older siblings could sometimes help. Other adults could provide food and protection. Some children may have become independent as they grew, and tragically, some children almost certainly didn't survive. But the important point is this: ancient humans didn't survive because every individual was strong enough to survive alone. They survived because individuals could depend on one another. A child could be weak, a child could be inexperienced, a child could lose a parent, and yet the group could sometimes carry that child forward. Someone could feed them, someone could teach them, someone could protect them, someone could simply stay beside them, and eventually that child could become the person who does the same for someone else. Maybe that's one of the oldest survival strategies humans ever developed. Not strength, not speed, not claws, connection. Because somewhere, thousands of years ago, a child may have stood beside a fire after losing a parent, believing they were completely alone, and then another human being sat down beside them and stayed. That simple act may be one of the reasons we are here today.